Good news! You don't need this anymore. Allow me to introduce Guinaifen, our newest 4-star fire nihility character. This girl will set your heart ablaze with her firecrackers, and she's also known for Today, we're going to take a deep dive into her kit to learn all about her statuses and how she can spread them on her enemies. Guinaifen's technique immediately attacks the enemy to enter battle and deals damage 4 times to random targets with a 100% chance to inflict Fire Kiss. More on this later. Her basic is nothing special, but you get to smack your enemy on the head, so that's pretty cool. With her A2 trace, it also has an 80% base chance to apply her skill's burn to the target. Her skill launches a firecracker to deal a moderate amount of damage to the primary target and less to adjacent ones. This attack has a 100% base chance to burn each enemy hit. We'll go more in depth with how much effect hit rate you need in the build section, but this is the main way you'll be applying her burn. Guinaifen's ult is very similar to Kafka's, dealing a bit of AoE damage, but more importantly, she triggers burn statuses on enemies to produce damage. Her talent is what makes everything come together. Every time an enemy takes damage from burn, there's a 100% base chance to apply a stack of Fire Kiss, increasing their damage received for 3 turns. Fire Kiss stacks up to 3 times, and each stack further increases their damage taken. Vulnerability is a potent and pretty rare source of damage amplification, and it works a bit differently than damage percent bonuses. What's even crazier is a stack of Fire Kiss will be applied for each burn instance, no matter the source. Off the top of my head, we have Hook's Burn, Asta's, Fire Break, and Trend of the Universal Market. Guinaifen's ult, and really anything that can manually detonate the burns like Kafka's abilities, will apply a stack of Fire Kiss as well for each burn tick. This can stack up really fast, and you can maintain the debuff pretty much at all times on every enemy. So to summarize, Guinaifen primarily deals damage through her burns, which she can easily apply and maintain on all enemies, as well as amplifying all sources of damage through her Fire Kiss debuff. Again, her Fire Kiss can be easily maintained at max stacks as well on all enemies. You'll want to focus on leveling her skill, talent, and ultimate. Leveling the skill will increase her burn multiplier, leveling her talent will increase the damage taken by enemies with Fire Kiss, and leveling the ult will increase the amount of damage that's produced from burn detonation. You can leave her basics untouched at level 1. She has great minor traces with 10% effect hit rate, 24% break effect, and a whopping 22.4% fire damage bonus. Guinaifen's pretty easy to build, but you do need to fulfill one condition: effect hit rate. Luckily, she's got a 100% base chance to apply her burn and Fire Kiss, so this should be pretty straightforward. Let's go over each of the important breakpoints. There's no point assuming less than 10% effect hit rate since she gets that from her traces, and what we really care about is the bare minimum needed to guarantee she lands her statuses. The enemies with the most effect res in the game currently is 40%, and as we can see here, with no EHR subs, we have a 66% chance to land a burn or Fire Kiss. We can also see that her basic attack with 10% EHR has a 52.8% chance of landing a burn. I'm not liking these odds, so let's move on. This chart's pretty useful for other characters as well, since many abilities have a 100% base chance to land their debuffs. But anyway, we now have a good idea of how much we need. 67% will guarantee Guinaifen landing her statuses. Ideally, this is what you want to aim for. It doesn't need to be exactly that, but anything in the ballpark is okay. You don't want to build more effect hit rate just to guarantee the basic attack landing her burn. 80% is pretty respectable already, and since it lasts for 2 turns, you should be able to maintain it with her skill. With this in mind, let's go on to her relics, light cones, and stats. Right now, she doesn't have much leeway in terms of relic options, and if there is a new set in the future that's tailored for fire damage or damage over time, it'll easily surpass her current options. That being said, right now you want to run her on 2-piece Firesmith and 2-piece Musketeer. You can also mix in a 2-piece Hackerspace, or if you're Grimro and you're addicted to it, 4-piece Musketeer. Again, most of her damage will come from her burns, and they scale with her fire damage and attack. It's possible that 4-piece Quantum can be better, but I'd only recommend this if you have some spare pieces lying around and you're using Silverwolf or Pella. If you don't have good 2 pieces, you can just run her on Rainbow sets, whichever has the best substats. For planar set, Space Sealing Station is just her best. There's no competition since she doesn't benefit much from crit, which Salsodo and Rudolent both give. Her skill and ult multipliers are not great, so even with crit they won't hit very hard. For main stats, run an effect hit rate body if the light cone doesn't have it, otherwise run attack. Speed boots are definitely necessary because they'll allow Guinaifen to maintain her debuffs while taking more actions. Fire damage bonus is her best orb, and you want to run an attack percent rope. Running ER does not give her any additional breakpoints when she's doing her alternating skill basic rotation. For substats, you want to make sure you can get her ideal effect hit rate of around 67% first, then focus on getting 134 speed for that extra action during the first cycle of Memory of Chaos. This shouldn't be too hard since she has a base speed of 106, and with just speed boots she's at 131. Otherwise, all you're looking for is attack percent, and lower on the priority list is break effect. The unfortunate reality of dot characters is they don't benefit from as many stats as standard characters do, since they can't really make use of crit. That being said, be on the lookout for my crit hyper carry Guinaifen. I'm gonna make it work. I'll list 5 light cone suggestions in order of top to bottom, and then go over what stats you should target in your relics. Her best in slot option for personal damage is an S5 Goodnight and Sleep Well. The neat thing about this on Guinaifen is that you'll always have 2 guaranteed debuffs on enemies, her burn and her fire kiss. This already fulfills 2 of the 3 stacks for the damage bonus, and with another teammate like Kafka you can easily get max stacks. When you do run this light cone, it'll be hard to get that 67% effect hit rate, so I'd recommend running an effect hit rate body. Aside from this, Incessant Rain is an insane light cone for her and will be her best for overall team damage. The increased vulnerability stacks with her fire kiss, and even though it gets applied to a random target, you're going to be amping your team by quite a bit. The crit rate buff won't do much, but the fact that you get 24% effect hit rate on this light cone means you can actually build her with an attack percent body. You'll still need to find some EHR subs, but her attacks will be pretty hard with the higher base attack of the light cone. Eyes of the Prey is pretty solid, not as good as Goodnight and Sleep Well, but again, it's reliable and has no conditions for its bonuses. You get so much EHR on the light cone to the point where you definitely want to run an attack percent body as well. Okay, let's cover some of the free-to-play options. Solitary healing from Herta's store is quite solid, and you will have instances where you can get a lot more ults off. The break effect is nice, and having her ult increase her dot damage really synergizes with her kit. Vermana is sort of like a mini version of this, but you only get the damage bonus if they're afflicted by shock or wind shear. This isn't a problem if she's paired with Kafka or someone else that can do it, but unless another character is already using solitary healing, there's no real reason to put this on her. If you're using either of these options though, you will want to run her with an effect hit rate body. I usually don't like to exaggerate when talking about Eidolons, but man, Guinaifen's Eidolons are actually pretty cracked. Her E1 has a 100% base chance to reduce the targeted enemy's effect res by 10% for 2 turns. Right now, because we're already building EHR on units, it's not that crazy, but I can definitely see some potential for this in the future. E2 is one of the first really strong ones. Guinaifen can now increase her burns multiplier on a target by 40% when she attacks them with a basic or skill. Not much else to say here, it's a pretty significant increase to her damage output. E4 is for sure her most busted Eidolon. She regens 2 energy every time her burn causes damage. With the amount of manual dot detonation and from enemies passively taking burn damage, you can actually pull off some ridiculous rotations. This is one of the only situations where you can try an energy regen rope. It's still experimental and you might not ult a turn faster, but it's still worth considering. E6 is nice, it increases the max stacks of Fire Kiss from 3 to 4, which makes her an even greater damage amplifier. As far as teams go, Kafka is no doubt her best in slot teammate. Right now, Kafka's at the forefront of enabling the dot playstyle, manually detonating them with her skill and ult. Guinaifen of course offers a lot of utility to Kafka as well with her Fire Kiss, and by applying burn to every target for her to proc. I'm super looking forward to playing them together, it's gonna be a blast. You'll want to bring a solo sustain, Lucha would be best, Fushuan falling close behind. Bailu, Lynx, Natasha, Japard, and even March can also do the job if you don't have either of the first 2. As for the final slot, Asta definitely wins here. She synergizes perfectly with dot characters, giving them the buffs they want and buffing the entire team. She's not only got her attack and massive speed buff, but she's also got a team-wide fire damage bonus on her A4 trace. Also, not as impactful, but it will happen, her basic can apply a fire dot to the target enemy. If you run her on Planetary Rendezvous as well, you can even further increase Guinaifen's damage. Alternatively, you can run Pella or Silverwolf. With a dual damage healer setup and dot team, you really want both units to benefit instead of just using a hypercarry buffer. If you don't want to play a Kafka team or you just don't have her, I got you covered with one more option. Honestly, this synergy is the most interesting to me. Guinaifen is great with Hook, and more specifically Hook's talent. Hook wants enemies to be burned so that she can proc it, which is an additional amount of fire damage and extra energy. Guinaifen pretty much ensures Hook will always proc her talent since enemies will have her burn, and on top of that, Hook's burns can be procced by Guinaifen's ult and help spread more Fire Kiss. The more Fire Kiss, the more damage amplification, and of course both Hook and Guinaifen will benefit from that. Guinaifen's one of those characters that I feel have a lot more potential in the future. Right now she already has a place in several teams and can do very well, but I'm sure there's more coming. She's a very solid attack scaling dot damage dealer and very competitive with our current options of Sampo and Luca, though she definitely brings more to the table than both of them. She's also got some of the greatest animations in the game, even for a 4-star, and I can't wait for all of you to try her. If you're pulling on Topaz's banner, best of luck. I hope you get what you want, maybe a couple copies of Guinaifen. If you found any of this info helpful, do consider dropping a like and subscribing. I'd appreciate it a lot. Thank you for watching all the way to the end, and I will see you next time.